All right, man. We have got to talk about the lack of professionalism with today's employers. I mean, dude, what gives from the lack of communication, the lack of personal accountability, how nothing is ever anybody's fault all of a sudden? You go to one person and they send you to another who then refers you to an entirely separate department. I mean, everybody's just pointing fingers to the very next person saying it's not my problem, it's his problem. It's not her problem, it's their problem. I don't understand, dude. I really don't get it. And I had a couple incidents today that really have just brought this to the forefront, and I feel like I got to speak on it because there's been several things that people have touched on, and rightfully so, regarding the job market, regarding employee employer relations, and how they are just deteriorating at record rate, if not completely dissolved at this point. I mean, I don't know a single employee personally that respects their employer and vice versa. Honestly, it's like the employer can't wait to replace you or has no issue or no desire to retain you. And then the employee just as much could care less about remaining with said employer. They're just going to wait for the next best opportunity. And I totally get that. I really do, especially in today's economy. Hey, $2 extra on your hourly rate. I mean, that's something, that's something. It might be a couple more eggs in your basket, but I don't know, man. I really miss the time when there was a respect between employee and employer, but that has just gone with the wind. And when you look at certain things like, and I know people have spoken on this before, like the whole ghost job thing, right? It says here that 61% of job seekers say they've been ghosted post interview, a 9 point jump since early 2024. I mean, that's just over a year, right? That's just over a year. And a whole 9 point jump. 61% says they're ghosted. I mean, dude, that is insane. And I've had it happen. I'm sure you've had it happen. Now, I understand that not everybody who shows up is an ideal candidate, but come on, dude. I mean, there used to be some level of decency where these employers would say, hey, we decided to go in another direction, or maybe not even that, just, you know what, we're not going to move forward with you. We really appreciate you taking the time to apply and maybe keep an eye out for a future position, that kind of thing. There was at least some integrity. And now, look at this, upwards of 61% of people say they're getting ghosted post interview. And I have something in a little bit that I want to speak on in regards to this. Not necessarily me being ghosted, but it's just me having to do the heavy lifting. Like, you as the employee have to chase down the employer to try to fill a position that they posted. It's just ridiculous. But before we get into that, I'll cover that in a second. You have other statistics like this: 18 to 22% of job ads on Greenhouse are ghost jobs, dude. This is something that's been touched on a little bit or a couple of times before by many different people. And it's just that these postings, these ads exist with zero intention to fill. I mean, what even is that? You can say they're trying to act like they need people or meet some kind of hiring quota, kind of, but they don't actually do it. I mean, why do they even exist? Why is that even a thing? That's what really blows my mind. The fact that you will willingly post a job that you have no intention of filling. For what? Is this to artificially inflate jobs? Is this to, I mean, exactly that. Is it to artificially inflate jobs? I really don't see any other reason why this would even be a thing. And then it makes one wonder, why would they want to artificially inflate the job? Who is incentivizing this? I mean, I'm sure the government loves things like this, but what would be the incentive from the employer to follow through with this unless they're getting something out of it? I mean, why even bother? Why even take the time, right? It goes on to say things like nearly 1 in 3 recruiters admit to posting ghost jobs. Some say up to 25% of their listings fall into that category. Dude, that's a whole quarter of your job listings that you have zero intention of filling. And that means that there are people out here applying, hopeful, they're trying to get work, especially in this economy. Somebody might be looking for full-time work or a second job, and they are hoping to hear back. Even a no is better than nothing, right? But I guess we just live in the age of ghosting, from Tinder to freaking employers now all of a sudden, right? LinkedIn data shows 27.4% of US listings are most likely ghost jobs with no intent to hire. There you go, essentially the same number. What is the point of that, right? 75% of job applicants never hear back. We've all been there. 75%. You cannot tell me you've heard back from every employer. And here's a little anecdotal piece, right? Back when I was in high school, when I first started working, I think I got my first job at 15 and 3 months or so. Whenever you could legally work without a whatever form you needed from your school or something, every single job I applied for, I got. But it was also the old school way. Like, yeah, I believe Indeed was a thing at the time. But for the most part, dude, I'm sure a lot of you can remember this. You would just kind of roll into the spot, whether it's a restaurant or a Verizon. I used to work there. And you would just say, hey, can I talk to the manager? You might see the host at the front of the restaurant. Hey, can I see your manager? Oh, yeah, let me go grab them. They come out. Hey, my name is so-and-so. I was just wondering, are you guys hiring? And they would tell you right then and there, yes or no. And in most cases, if they said yes, I would just immediately follow that up with, okay, could I get an application? Sure, let me go grab one, or they already had one within arm's reach. Sometimes I even filled out the application on the spot and gave it right to the manager, who I would then go on to schedule an interview with. And within a week, I would be working there. You know what I mean? I'd have the interview 2 days later. Maybe I'd start the following week or so. It was so simple. And now it's like you have to go through all these hoops and climb all these fucking ladders just to hear nothing, right? And then to top it off, look at this. It says Gen Zers face the worst. They apply to hundreds of jobs, only for 243 of those applicants to be no's or ghosts. Do you see what I'm saying? Ghosting has risen 11%. Candidates who experience ghosting report much more negative impressions. Do you understand that there are, on average, I believe each job listing gets almost 300 applicants on average. Okay, right here. Average job postings get 244 applications now. So not quite 300, but I was almost there. Up from just 93 in 2019. That means, look at that. It's almost triple what it used to be. That's how many people are fighting for these jobs. And then when you take into account AI, I don't know if anybody has heard of this. They're now starting to run your applications through AI. It's not even being looked over by an HR team or department or a hiring manager or anything like this. The hiring manager, in a lot of cases, has become an AI system, which means you're essentially being graded by an algorithm. Maybe if you misspelled something or didn't use the correct pronunciation, or they don't like the format of your resume, or what, just one little thing, you could automatically be sent to the bottom of the pile. So you and 300 other applicants, 299 other applicants, all vying for the same job. And you just have this algorithm that's just throwing you out, looking for the perfect candidate, the most ideal hire. And I understand to an extent why that could be beneficial for the employer, but come on, dude, there used to be a human touch here. Maybe that guy was a little bit better than you, but you were just good with your words, could talk the pennies off of none. You know what I'm saying? Had the charisma. There was that human feel, but now you don't even get to the human part because you're being overruled by an algorithm. You know what I mean? It's just absolutely ridiculous. And then beyond the ghost jobs, what really got me going today was having to deal with a situation with my employer that has just been a reoccurring theme. And I'm sure most of you can relate to this. It doesn't matter what industry you're in or what occupation you hold, but just the lack of communication, bro. What is this? When did employers stop instructing you or communicating things? What to expect throughout the workday, week, month, what your position is responsible for, this kind of thing. Dude, I run into it all the time where I'm constantly having to solve my own issues that shouldn't even be my issues had you just said something. If you just communicated to me what the circumstance was or what was going on, what to expect, then this entire thing could have been avoided. Today, I had to call one person who then deferred me to another person who deferred me to a third department just so I could find out that, oh yeah, this task is not expected to be completed today because it's not even available. This entire place is closed down for the day. They're doing something totally different. Excuse me. So you won't be able to fulfill that one today, right? I have a job currently where I deal with a lot of people. I'm delivering things. I drive a truck, so I'm going around, right? And it was never communicated to me that this certain establishment was going to be closed for the entire day. And yet, for whatever reason, it was still on my log sheet that I had to go here. So after going in the morning and then in the afternoon and then a little after that, I finally got fed up. Like, dude, what the fuck is going on, man? Why is nobody answering? Why is nobody picking up the phone? Why is nobody here to receive this? You know what I mean? And then after speaking to 1, 2, 3 people, I finally got the answer. Oh, must have been a miscommunication. Just bring all that stuff back. You won't be able to fulfill that today. What? You're telling me you knew that somebody had gotten back to you and said, oh yeah, by the way, we're going to be closed on such and such day. They already had the date and the reason for the closure, but they never communicated that to me. Instead, they just let me figure it out when all of this could have been avoided by just communicating. Do you see what I'm saying? It's little things like that that just really drive me up a wall with these employers. And speaking of my current employer, I almost didn't even get the job when I initially applied because, oh, hey, they forgot to mention that when you're checking your email, you will not be getting a correspondence from the regular email that you've been actively communicating back and forth with. No. It's going to come from an entirely different email under a different name. On the service level, zero association, right? I honestly almost missed it. I almost missed the entire opportunity. I just happened to be going through my email and I was like, oh, what is this? I wonder what this is. Come to find out it's a third party, like outsourced HR department. There was no call, there was no text, there was no heads up like, oh yeah, by the way, we outsource our HR. So don't be expecting the message to come from us. It's going to come from such and such company. That was never communicated. So I almost lost the opportunity, but thankfully I caught it at the last second just by sheer luck, in my opinion, because I happened to go through it. It appeared at first like it was just some kind of spam email or something, but obviously I opened it before I delete it. And then boom. And that's what I'm trying to talk about. That's what I'm trying to say right here. The lack of communication is insane. And that honestly reminds me of something I went through recently, trying to pivot and go into, similar industry, but better situation, better financial situation, right? A little bit more bread, as we all need in today's economy. And let me give you the rundown. Let me tell you what's going on. So I've got a homeboy of mine. He's already in there. So I've got one foot in the door. He was up talking me, to the management. You know how that goes, right? Come to find out, of this place, the role I would be doing, there's only about 12 people that do the role, okay? 2 had quit. They're down to 10. And when that happens, you go from a 4-day work week to a 5-day work week. They got to spread out the work. That's how little people are actually fulfilling this job, right? And that seems like, you would think, a big deal. That's almost 20% of your employer base that is carrying this out, right? So my homeboy, having up-talked me a lot, lets me know as soon as the job listing goes live. I apply within the first 15 minutes, submit everything. Okay, boom, good to go. I ask him to follow up for me at the end of the workday. He said, yep, they got your shit. They're going over it right now. Sweet, sounds amazing. Fast forward to the following week. Okay, things are moving kind of quick, right? Schedule an interview for Tuesday, 12 p.m. I take the day off for my current job, get my little sick note, you get me, and I slide over there. Crush the interview. However, as you should, I show up early. I'm 15 minutes early. I have to sit in the waiting room for 20 minutes. right? The guy that conducted the interview says, hey, there has to be the district manager that also sits in, and we do it that way. So there'll be two people here. I sit in the waiting room for 20 minutes waiting for the DM to show up. He never does. The first guy comes back, hey, let's just go ahead and get started. He says he's on the way, so hopefully he'll just pop in while we're in the middle of this and we'll be able to wrap it up that way. Okay, cool, no problem. Get in there. It's like two old homeboys chatting. He's cool, you know what I'm saying? I'm calm, collect, you know what I mean? And things are going very well. Well, we actually reached the end of the interview. The second guy never shows up. What they then tell me is, well, that part is mandatory. The DM has to be there, so we have no choice but to schedule a second interview. Not the most common thing in the world, but I guess it happens. My biggest issue with that is, again, the lack of professionalism. Big man, what do you mean you're not going to show up? You're the DM, okay? So you have the highest level authority in the room. Why are you not there? I hold you to a higher standard than I would anybody else. You have the greater position, right? Also, you told me the date and time. I did not pick out this date and time. You told me when you were available and asked me if I could make it. And I said yes. I changed my schedule accordingly. How is it that I'm here early, I might add, and you are nowhere to be found? You told me when to come here. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? That is so unprofessional, especially someone of your stature in terms of the job title that you hold. You know what I mean? How is it that I show up early and you're nowhere to be found? Dude, it's just so ridiculous. So anyway, I'm like, whatever. I guess we'll have to do this second interview. What choice do I have? That was also 2 weeks ago, right? And I haven't heard anything. I tried following up one time. They say, oh, yeah, they'll reach out to you. That's what they keep saying. But also remember, I've got one foot in the door. My homeboy's still there. They haven't done any other interviews. Nobody else has been after me. I was the first one to apply. I was the first one to be interviewed, right? And my whole thing is this. If you just lost 20% of your workforce carrying out a specific role, wouldn't you think that you would be on top of this kind of thing? The fact that everybody had to go from a 4-day work week to a 5-day work week to make up for the lack of employees, don't you think that they would be on top of this kind of thing? Why do I, the employee, have to chase you down, the employer, in order to fill a role that you are in need of? That doesn't even make sense. That doesn't even make sense to me. You need somebody. I know you need somebody. I have a man on the inside. I know you need somebody. Dude, for the life of me, I don't get why we are expected to chase down these employers when they need people, allegedly, or if they actually do need people and you know that. How is it all of a sudden my job? I remember back in the day when I would apply, like these people would blow up your phone. I used to have jobs lined up where I could pick. I would have to turn down 2 jobs so I could accept this one over here. I know a fantastic problem to have, especially in today's economic climate. We all wish we had this problem. And I'm thankful that I have a job and there are prospects out there because I decided to go the trade route. You know what I mean? But still, man, my biggest complaint with employers today is just the sheer lack of professionalism, the lack of communication, how they expect more out of the best workers, but let the shitty workers get away with everything instead of just firing them and replacing them with better workers. I see this all the time. Your reward for hard work is just more fucking work. And more times than not, it's somebody else's work, dude. So that's just something I was feeling today, man. To be honest, I was going through some things with my employer. I was just like, man, all of this could be avoided. It doesn't have to be like this. Why does it have to be like this? And I know I'm not alone in this, so I just thought I would kind of rant for a little bit, voice my opinions. I'm sure many of you have gone through this before. If you have, please share your horror stories down in the comments. I read all of them. I really do appreciate all the support, all the engagement. We just broke 50 subs, woo, big man ting, we are shooting for the stars now. But as always, man, it's your boy Wicks the Board. Y'all take it easy.